You've tuned into the Bellingham Podcast for the week of Cinco de Mayo 2019. This is episode 116.
May 5th for the rest of us.
From la ciudad cerca de el Salish Sea, I am AJ Barcet.
And straight out of 9226, I am Chris Powell. On this I Don't Speak Spanish episode, AJ and I have another word of note episode cooked up for you. It's a Danish word that relates to a previous word of note, but not that similar. No, we're not recording on the second floor, but we are on location. Won't you join us? This is the Bellingham Podcast.
Hola, Chris. ¿Qué tal, mi amigo?
Hey, how's it going, AJ?
Doing good. Look, this is going to come out Cinco de Mayo weekend.
Yes, it is.
I just thought, hey, to all of our Spanish-speaking listeners, hola.
Hola.
Gracias por todo.
There you go.
And yeah.
So, AJ, it's been a while. Where the heck are we?
We are actually on location, and boy, howdy, I miss being out and about with you doing the show.
Yes, the winter was definitely one to get indoors and experience that Danish word hygge, that warm, cozy feeling. But anyway, where are we?
We are at Babbygreens, a new-ish coffee house and greenhouse, or plant vendor off of Cornwall, right across from the old Colshan Cycles place.
Yes.
And you are a minimalist, and in your extravagance of hyperbole of words, how would you define the ambiance that is this cool cafe I found?
I'm choosing my words carefully in this one. From the time that I've been here, my choice of in response is exhaling. It's very pleasant to be in here. The environment, by the way, it's on 1201 Cornwall Avenue, Suite 103 if you're playing along on Google Maps or Apple Maps. When you're driving on Chestnut and you reach that Cornwall stoplight, look to your left. For you boat fans, that's port. And then on your left, you'll see Babbygreens Plant Shop and Cafe. Their website is plantshopbaby.com. And what I really enjoy about this joint is not only do they have wonderful plants and foliage, both indoor and outdoor, for sale, they've got, if you can hear it, it's Alar Marzocco in the distance, boys and girls. They make coffee par excellence around here. Our wonderful barista artist, Charlie, was kind enough to hook us up with, what are you drinking?
I'm doing a cappuccino. Sup, Charlie?
Hello, Charlie. And I have a mocha because I'm uninventive, and I just go with something that works. But the coffee, and they also have, when it's beer 30, they have beer on tap and some fine bottles of wine available for your drinking pleasure if you choose to imbibe while looking at plants. And coming soon, they're currently, you might hear this in the background, they're working on outdoor seating. Oh boy, with the nice weather coming out, to take an afternoon and watch the world go by, at least in traffic in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. What a better place to do that on Cornwall and Chestnut.
Yeah, so if you hear some drilling in the background, no, that is not Chris and I. That's just the establishment. It looks like it's going to be pretty cool out there.
We're officially on location with all of the ambient sounds as well. Plus, one other thing that I've talked about in previous episodes. Yeah. Some establishments have the oonce berating your ears. As we walked in, there was really chilled down tempo.
It took 48 seconds for you to turn to me and say, "Do you hear that? Do you hear that?"
Yeah.
Do you hear that down tempo? Yes, I do, Chris.
I love chill music. It helps with the vibe, and I bet the plants love it too.
Yes.
We just checked with them. They said yes. So anyway, let's get to the topic at hand. So in a previous episode, we've done a word of note series where we talked about words in other languages, often that I don't speak, and one of them was a Danish word called hygge. Which is that cozy, comfortable feeling you get of an environment. Yes. Yeah. So, AJ, you got this one. So why don't you kick us off with what this word of note is?
Yeah, so this is Loo-ka. It's spelt Lykke, but it's
not Lykke.
Not Lykke, like I made the joke of, Hygge.
There you go.
Yeah, so when you see it, it's Lykke, but it's more pronounced Looka, so Loo-ka.
Loo-ka.
Yep, and it's the Danish word for happiness.
Of course.
And it's interesting because, since coming out of winter, my little dip as a transparent podcaster, I have not been happy as much as I've been in the past.
I've noticed this.
And so I've been doing a lot of reassessment and reevaluation. Matter of fact, it was at its peak when we were doing the Analog Explorer series. That was already in the hopper, but we were off the mic for several weeks, and you were on travel. My wife was out of town with my son, and it was I just hit a really downtrodden point.
Sure.
And I remember sending you a picture when I was kind of coming out of that, where I was sitting in my living room and I had lit a hurricane lantern because I don't have candles in my house.
Okay.
But I had a lit fire, had a book, had my watch, and I sent it to you, and you were just like, I hate you right now. I'm hating life. I'm traveling.
Yes.
And I'm like, yes, but we're going to talk about this later. Now, fast forward almost a month, and out of it, I read the little book of Hygge.
Yes.
Which is written by an author, Meik, Wiking, which his last name is spelled with a W, but I believe it's pronounced with a V, so it's like Viking, which is ironic because the Danes are direct descendants of Vikings. And he is the CEO, founder of the
Happiness Research Institute.
Happiness Research Institute. Yeah. And between his book and that research institute, it really kind of, I think, is kind of the forerunners that put Hygge in the zeitgeist 3 years ago?
Just about, yeah.
And so the subsequent book to Hygge, because it's a fast read. If you haven't read it, read it.
Yeah, it's worth it.
But out of it, I kind of found myself asking myself more questions. Knowing how to Hygge and why that is about, I was more curious of why in their culture why is that a thing? Like we always say, why is that a thing?
Mm-hmm. And so, by the way, if I can interject for a second, AJ, we are in the wrong career. I think I need to drop what I'm doing in the IT field as a professional technologist and go apply to the Happiness Research Institute. I bet they got pretty good work-life balance.
I imagine so.
Anyway, yeah.
Which, if you're hiring, please email us at...
Hi, Mike. Anyway.
So anyway, the subsequent book is Loo-ka, and it looks at more of the cultural perspective of why... Like Hygge is a part of Loo-ka, and so you had to start small and then going out big because I want to get the bigger picture.
Could this be the lightsaber to the Jedi? If Hygge is the Jedi, then Loo-ka is the lightsaber.
Maybe.
I'm just grasping at straws.
Maybe.
It's the mocha and the caffeine that's currently kicking in. Yeah.
But anyway, regardless. So with Loo-ka, there's 6 life pillars. And I think you have a link in the show notes.
Yeah, drink. We have plenty of links in the show notes. Drink again. So there's an article that we are linking to from the UK Telegraph publication. There's a great article to introduce you to this concept, the 6 pillars of happiness. That includes togetherness, something that, not in front of a screen or virtually, actual in-person togetherness, kind of like where we're at. We're in about a 3-foot diameter table with microphones.
We're comfy, we're cozy.
Dueling microphones, that's us. Money, health, freedom, trust, and kindness. Yeah, let's talk about that in this show. 6 things that are important to happiness. And sure, it's easy to talk about, I got this, and I got this, and I got my health, and we live in a place where we have freedoms and things like that. Do you trust your fellow brother and sister, or whomever they identify as? Are you kind to these people around you? Are you kind? Really? You think so? I know what you did in that car on Meridian Street. It's not. That wasn't kind. Anyway, let's move on. So, there's an important date coming up.
That just passed. So March 20th, at the time of this recording, is already passed, and that is the international declaration of the International Day of Happiness by the UN, which I didn't know was a thing. Now, if you look at Great Britain and some other countries, if you're listening to us, sup Sri Lanka.
Hello.
Your country may have a dedicated day of happiness. I think the US, we have a different date, but I was going off of the UN one because this is a world thing that we need to work on.
One world, one love, one happiness, right?
Yeah, man.
There you go.
But out of that, you'll also notice that the UN puts out reports every year called the World Happiness Report, and this is also cited in Hygge and Loo-ka.
I was not aware of this until reading these books.
Yeah, so when you look at this, every year it lists the happiest countries in the world. So in 2018... mostly the Scandinavian countries are always in the top running, where Denmark is usually first, second, or third. It's basically the Vikings fighting each other. Like it's it's the top Scandinavians ones. They're really
fighting in love. Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, outside of that, I was just kind of curious. Where do we stand in the U.S. Right?
Where are we?
So in 2018 we were 18th.
Okay.
This year, 2019, we're 19th.
Okay.
And according to, I believe it was either CNN or BBC, I can't remember which, the United States has been dropping one spot pretty much every year since pretty much 2017.
Since 2017, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, moving on. So we are number 19. At least we're in the top 20, right?
Right.
USA, we're number 19.
19.
So anyway, lots of interesting information. Click on these links to check them out in your mobile device if you're listening to us on a podcast app of choice, or if you're checking us out on the desktop.
Or if you're on, maybe in your car, and hopefully you were being kind in your car on, Holly Street or whatever. Yes, we did see you honk, but that's okay. You might be listening to us on Camry 102.3 FM.
Community powered
radio here in the heart of the city of subdued excitement. I told you on the last episode I'm going to have to get my rhythm in.
We're working on it. We'll
Got
get a shtick
a
going
new
on.
shtick.
Yeah, we got it. So anyway, so that's all the way over in Denmark,
yes.
over in Scandinavia. Great idea, great life practice to ascribe to. It's kind of tough to do that in hyper-charged, caffeinated America. So here in the northwest of the Northwest, in PNW land, if you will, how can we learn from these 6 pillars of Loo-ka, and how can we get happier in our area? AJ.
So to start it off, we're doing it right now, Chris. I mean, we're in a small cafe.
Yes.
We're sipping our small cups of coffee. We're not downing it.
And I think James Taylor's playing on the sound system above.
Excellent.
A nice baritone voice. That puts me in a happy mood.
He's joining us as well.
Yes.
We're surrounded by plants.
Yes.
We're in a place that has lots of natural, like everything's made out of wood.
A lot of wood, yes.
Yeah. And we're being more human, okay? Yes, we're using devices to record our show. That's kind of part of our thing, but it's slowing down. So the first thing is slow down. We are way too fast over here. And if you look at the Danes, they usually are a little bit... They take things at an more even pace than us, where it's just go, 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 go.
Yes. The rush. Well, I've always had this mantra. Once my life got into real hyperdrive, including full disclosure, a doctor's visit that included a 180/110 blood pressure diagnosis.
Recently?
No, this was a number of years ago.
Okay.
Back in my angry 20s decade.
Got it.
And so I had to come up with a mantra. There is no rush.
Right.
And so that's one of the ways I'm trying to help myself for that. But anyway, I'm getting us off track.
So slowing down a little bit, and that kind of opens you up a little bit to kind of realize, reflect, think, all that other jazz that we've talked about for 116 episodes. But the thing that I find interesting, and I'm reading more about the Danish culture just out of my own curiosity, out of, honestly, our Word of Note episode, and then me being in the dumps for a month. Understanding a little bit about the Danes. The Danes are direct descendants of Vikings. Okay. So they have a mentality of like more akin to like a tribe, where and that's kind of the reason why that their social structure is set up the way. They have they're a high welfare state. They pay a lot of taxes, but they don't see themselves paying taxes. It's more an investment in their community.
What an interesting way to reframe that payment.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And so also there's a lot of other social systems, which I'm going to take geopolitics out and just focus on the sense of community, which is what we have a lot here in Bellingham. And they also, it's not uncommon around Bellingham to hear that we, quote, work hard to play hard. Basically, the winter, we all kind of bunker down. When spring and summer hits, we are out. We're usually taking a ton of time off. We're out on trails. Funny, our Dane brethren and sisterin do very much the same. Of course. So there's a lot of commonalities between the Pacific Northwest and the Danish Northeast, I guess.
Sure, let's call it that.
Let's call that.
Yeah, a lot of outdoors therapy,
yes,
if you will.
So natural therapy, which is also talked about in Loo-ka. And there's also another one that was referenced in the book called bibliotherapy, which I thought was interesting.
Biblio's like books.
As in books, yeah. So Meik, the author.
Mr. Viking.
Mr. Wiking, he was describing the fact that one of his favorite things he likes to do, and one of the affordable things, is on a good day, you go out, find a hammock or find a good spot out and about with a good book and just read out in clean air.
Yes.
Away from people and just connecting and, again, slowing down.
And for those of you that are in the K-12 system or maybe in higher education, how about this? Don't bring your textbook with you if you're going to do some hammock. Pick something that you might enjoy reading, that you've heard something about.
Or challenge yourself. Like reading Loo-ka.
Exactly. It's an 80-page book. You might enjoy it.
Yeah. So the other thing that they talk about is taking the more scenic route. This is something you and I talk about a lot, hitting our trails. Also over there, there's 180% tax on vehicles. So vehicles are not common. That's why they're mostly bicycling, which in our town, we have tons of bicycling stuff. I would argue they have a better infrastructure than we do here in Bellingham. Sorry, Mayor. But regardless, like being able to connect with your surroundings, taking a little slower pace, and being able to allow yourself to think. There is science that I don't have a link in the show notes. Probably by the time this goes out, I'll find one.
Don't drink.
There's lots of research with regards to the fact that if you are more out and near nature, which is why I wanted to record this episode in this shop in Babbygreens, because we're surrounded by nature even though we're indoors.
Yeah.
And this is something that science and business is now on board. Why would Amazon build those huge orbs in Seattle, in urban metal and glass kingdom for a business sense? Why would they bring those orbs full of plant life and then host meetings and all that other jazz?
Well, I'm going to break it down even further.
Go for it.
How can someone be expected to work 8 consistent hours in a shift when they are consistently in meetings, consistently being productive, consistently making widgets, and don't have time to think and reflect and process and let your brain actually do what it's supposed to do, which is to analyze, reflect, and engage in ways to, compartmentalize? Might also help you get a good night's sleep too if you're going full blast, full throttle, 5th gear, 80 miles an hour for 8 hours a day.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you're turning the key off in your professional mental ignition and you're going to go home. Well, the brain's going to break down just like a car would if you did that.
Right.
And so by having these little breaks, these pit stops in the rest areas on your highway of the day, just thought of that right now. Thank you very much, Charlie, for the wonderful mocha and caffeine that is injecting my brain with creativity. You take these breaks during the day and you get a chance to exhale, kind of like what I talked about here. And think, go for a walk around the building. Try to find some greenery if you're in a metropolitan, cosmopolitan area, and let your mind think about anything. It'll do you good.
Yeah. So science has actually started to show that the fact that if you are outside or connecting with nature in some way, your productivity actually goes up. Yeah. Okay. So, and then on top of that, if we even jump cultures a little bit more, going not just from the Pacific Northwest to Denmark, but if we go to Japan,
yes,
the Japanese even have what's called forest. Is it forest breathing?
Forest bathing.
Forest bathing.
Oh yes.
And it's Shinrin Yoku.
I don't speak the language. However, Japan evidently has 48 forest therapy trails to get what the Telegraph, that UK publication, coins endorphins.
Yeah.
Hello. Not my term, their
term.
But here's the thing. Japan's got 48. How much do we have just in this city? 400? Yeah, exactly.
But see, that's the reason why I like to draw this concept of Loo-ka and the fact that the Danish culture is very akin to what we have, what I call we're all part of the Republic of Cascadia over here.
Yes, that's our tribe.
It is our tribe. Doesn't matter if Sup Canada, if you are part of or raised in the nature of the Pacific Northwest mentality, this Cascadian mentality, you have an appreciation for the outdoors.
Yep.
You see the value within community. You see the value in work-life balance, which is the other thing we're going to dovetail into this.
Yes.
The fact is that even if you are in a city, finding nature and finding a balance with your time, because your time matters.
Yes, it does.
And it doesn't necessarily just matter in the office. It matters to your health. Think about the other pillars, okay? If you are thrown out of balance, okay, everything else will fall apart with it. Okay?
And also, let's talk about those other pillars. If it's thrown out of balance, trust and kindness, those are two big ones. If you don't trust a lot of people, if you're, kind of in this zone where you're not really enjoying your fellow person around you and you're not really nice to them, that's going to have some kind of intangible extrinsic effects that, I don't know if I use the right term or not. It may have some adverse
Negative
effects on
effects.
you. Yeah, exactly.
And on top of that, also having a high family life. You and I are both dads. We want to spend more time with the fam.
We love that.
And that's part of our work-life balance. But you and I are also very much always engaged, always working on things.
Right.
Almost to a fault. And that's what I've recognized in the last 2 months. I feel like I've been a little bit out of balance with my work-life balance. I found that my coping mechanism was projects.
Yes.
And thus, I found out that I started hating both sides. I fell out of balance.
It's kind of like that Jack Johnson song, "Slow down, everyone, you're moving too fast." Yes, Inaudible Melodies?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I think so.
It's something to keep in mind as we are doing this, but we don't want to beat this horse too much. So let's talk about some other information that we got.
So also, the other thing about Loo-ka and the Danish culture is, this is right up your vein. I would say they're probably a culture predominantly made of either essentialists or minimalists.
Well, in Scandinavia land, there is a company in Sweden that happens to. They're a big company.
Really? Are they that big?
Well, in Sweden, they kind of have these products that are very simplistic in nature.
Yeah. What's the name of that?
IKEA, fool.
Oh, IKEA. Yes.
Exactly. So there's a certain merit to. They got something that going on, anti-consuming, right?
Right.
Why? The not grabbing all the stuff you can get on a weekend jaunt to fill in the blank retail Ville, and where they are able to stop, enjoy what they have. Mm-hmm. And you made a comment about that in an earlier episode. We want to bring that up. Just to have a little less in your life, to get less, you can experience more. Mm-hmm. It sounds counterintuitive. But I think we are finding as we eliminate things from our life, we're able to not have this weight on us with things. Mm-hmm. My relationship with things as part of my identity kind of ended a few years ago.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I find interesting about their philosophy and their way of life, I guess, calling Loo-ka more of their cultural way of life, is, and I'm surmising this is what I kind of gathered when I read Loo-ka, is when you look at experiences versus things. Yep. Things, like if you buy anything, if you're in the stock exchange or whatever, you have an asset, it either depreciates or appreciates. Now, yes, some things do appreciate or hold their value, but in the Danish way of life, in Loo-ka, if you're going to buy something, if it is an experience, the return on investment is a guaranteed increase. If you think of it in terms of just return on investment, because they see it as it's a part of your story, and it's a part of who you are and what makes you more productive, more happy, etc. So when you buy something, if it breaks, or here, typically in the US, we kind of go for like the cheapest that we can, and then when it breaks, we'll just get another one. Yeah. Doesn't exist over there. They will spend, $900 on that one chair, and then they'll tie it to maybe an achievement. Maybe you got a great job or whatever. We talked about this a couple episodes back with watches, Yes, you can go out and buy a Rolex, but what does it mean? Unless it's tied to, fatherhood or whatever.
I was diligent for 2 years in setting aside money, did not touch it. I've sacrificed going out with friends on a number of occasions. I built up this little nest egg of thump of cashola, and I was able to throw down on this timepiece that really is something that every time I look at it, I smile.
Right.
And to be able to have that kind of investment, it's an investment in yourself. But that's hey, single guys out there, I got one for you.
All the single gentlemen.
Not that. But anyway, what I got for you, if you're thinking about going on a date with a gal or with someone that you are very enamored with, and you want to impress them, there is a time and place for the ritzy ditzy restaurant experience and the oons club experience. Try this. Go out and go to the grocery store with that special someone you are enamored with. Buy the materials to cook dinner at home, or at whoever place you choose, whatever you feel comfortable with. You pick up the tab this time, but you make a home cooked meal. It's part of the process, and it could be fun. Yes. And oh, by the way, that excuse, I don't know how to cook. Hey, there's a website out there that you might want to check out. Get a pen and paper, www.youtube.com.
And, it's up and coming.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about it. And type in a particular dish that you think would be great, or something that person you're enamored with is. So there is a cost associated with the groceries for this meal. But
it's an experience.
It's an experience, and you're doing it together. And oh, by the way, you're going to have to talk with each other as you're getting a quarter cup of extra virgin olive oil, as you crack open the linguine in the box and get it to boiling. You're going to have a conversation. Yeah. I don't know if you can do that as you're feeling rushed in a loud oons restaurant that you may think would impress this person. Actually listening to what they have to say. Ooh, that's a pillar. That's called kindness. By listening to someone and having conversations, that also might invoke trust since you're paying attention to each other. Think about that, single guys.
Well, it doesn't even have to be about single guys. Like if you want to build bonds with friends, one of the things that he talks about is what he calls a free fun fellowship.
Oh, I like that.
And
the three F words.
3 F words.
Yes.
And what it's about is, again, like instead of spending for whatever, for the perception of being more or putting out more or whatever, if you basically within the friend group, one person says, hey, I'm going to put on this for this one day. Everybody clear your calendar and bring a dish. And then you go and do something, whether it's, for instance, I got something coming up where I'll be on the top of a mountain. And that's what's basically going to happen is everybody just brings some food, boom, we're on top of a mountain on an early day, and that's it. Like it's free fun as it was, and it gets people, especially if you're in a city culture where your mass mode of communication at 5 o'clock is happy hour.
Yeah.
You're spending a lot of money. You're spending a lot of stuff that may be plaguing your health, another pillar. And on top of that, what could you do more with that time? So it makes you it juxtaposes your life and kind of makes you kind of prioritize and organize things going, how can we optimize this? How could it make me happier?
Absolutely. And, give it a try because we're all about new experiences. Yeah. Hence this wonderful establishment. I usually refer to places as joints. This doesn't qualify as a joint. This is an establishment. Yes. That's going to get really popular now that the weather is starting to get warmed up and people are going to start planting.
And they listen to the show.
And that too, yes. So anyway, hopefully this gives you some ideas. And oh, by the way, it's not just for the single folks, married folks. You haven't been on a date in a while? Don't feel sheepish about that. Let's just say, find something that y'all like. Do you both have bicycles? Do you both have, a pair of shoes that don't have dress shoe leather uppers on there? Like you got a pair of walking shoes.
I shouldn't get my Louis Vuittons?
No, okay. Please don't. Or the Cole Haan fluffy shoes. Why don't you just...
How do you spell that? I'm going to Google that brand.
Fuffy with umlauts on the U.
Umlauts.
Yes, because, I do speak some languages. But anyway, go for a walk. Now, a wonderful date could be you go for a walk on one of the many trails here in Bellingham. Don't know which one to go to because you haven't really been on walks.
I'll pick one right now, Lake Wadcombe.
Okay, I'll pick another one. Interurban Trail over there down south of Fairhaven.
Oh, how about the Northridge Trail?
Or how about actually going down to the new Granary Avenue, which is just opening up?
Or maybe, anywhere on Chuckanut, like, Oyster Dome.
Or maybe even Cordata Parkway where Gene Rove... Yeah.
See, previous episodes. Like, that's the thing is I think, and the reason why I wanted to bring this up is especially because it's spring and people are going to start coming out. And the reason why Hygge is around in Danish culture is because it's basically Winterfell up there. Like, they get 4 months of dark and winter. And so out of that, to preserve their mentality and their connections and comfort, they have Hygge. And that is their practice. For us... maybe it's microbrew Hygge around here in the brew pub city of subdued excitement. But again, when we get out, I just want to kind of encourage everybody to look at your happiness, slow down, take some time for yourself. We are one of the most work-filled countries where we leave vacation on the table, where other countries don't. And the be kind part. Now, it's interesting. You would think in this wonderful land of Denmark, where there's people, happy all the time, they're also not the most open. Oh. Like if you approach, as I've been reading, they very much keep to themselves because, again, their trust network, their group, an outsider, you kind of have to, I'm going to surmise, kind of prove your chops. So they don't come off sometimes courteous.
They're not huggers.
But then again, they're not huggers.
Okay.
But then again, when you look around Bellingham, I feel like we've gotten there as well. We do it a little bit differently maybe than the Danes. Maybe it's because we have those ear pods in our ear and we're nose down, not looking at each other.
Have you been watching me lately? Oh, I'm sorry.
But no, I just realize, look up, take those things out. If you hit a trail, I was on a trail recently, okay? And this was a little far-flung trail. There was me and 2 other people I saw the entire day. Both people were hiking with their headphones. One didn't even acknowledge, on the trail, like, hey, afternoon type of thing. He just kept going. The second person, younger person, she had 2 dogs. I had my dog with me. So immediately, again, we're of a common tribe. Dog people, how's your dog? Oh, that was great.
They poop.
Yep. Then earphones went back in and she went on.
Sure.
We need to commune more with our environment. and we need to commune more with ourselves. Otherwise, it's going to garner less trust in our community. I'm not talking about the rest of the country. I'm just saying our community here.
Let's start with our community and then let that all just ripple effect forward.
There was a reference in the book, Loo-ka, called flink, and I believe that is Danish or one of the Scandinavian cultures. I'm going to say it's a Danish word, but don't quote me on that one. Flink is like friendly and kindness and genuine friendliness, not the, hey, how's it going later type of thing. It's like, Chris, how you doing? How you feeling? You know,
how are
how's
you
your
really
wife?
doing? Yes.
You know, that genuineness.
Absolutely.
How do we build more trust? How do we slow down? And how do we find the comfort and coziness so that we can be all healthier?
And now you've just learned, 2 or 3 new words: flink, Loo-ka, and Shinrin Yoku for the forced bathing. Anyway, you learned something on this podcast. We should probably wrap this up.
Yep, that wraps it up for this 116th edition of the Bellingham Podcast. Thank you again so much for listening to us, rating us, reviewing us, wherever you like to get our podcast. Remember, if you are in the Bellingham area, you might be listening to us on KMRE 102.3 FM.
Community
power radio here in the heart of the city by the Salish Sea. And on that note, take care of yourself and get out there as soon as spring gets here in full force. I'm AJ Barsa.
And I'm Chris Powell. Be careful out there on May 5th. Don't overdo, y'all. Thanks again, once again, for and thanks for Mr. Nick and Mr. Charlie for hosting us here at Babbygreens Plant Shop and Cafe as we're recording. I'm Chris Powell. Thanks once again for listening to us on the Bellingham Podcast. Outdorphins. I wish I came up with that one. That is such a killer term.